What is up, boys and girls? Lundrick here. Now I'm back with a rebooking video, actually, as the title says, Rebooking WWF Summerslam 1993. So now that I've got a little rest from G1 action, there's no G1 climax until Wednesday. I had a deal on my hands, so I thought, yeah, you know what, I might as well just do it. Because after I did the Invasion video a few weeks ago, I thought, maybe for the summer I'll do some SummerSlam rebookings, and this is really one of the ones that I thought about doing. That's a 1993 edition. So if you guys want it, I might do a few more in the next couple of weeks before SummerSlam, as long as I'm not too busy with G1 and work and stuff like that. So the ones I was thinking about doing 1999, and I was thinking about doing 2004 as well. So yeah, so like I say, if you guys want to see something like that, put that in the comment section below. So yeah, let's get to it really. SummerSlam 1993, 26 years ago. Probably one of the SummerSlams that people don't really like that much. I liked it a little bit more than most people, probably because I was a kid at the time. But admittedly, I probably could come up with a better card if I wanted to. So, let's look at what the real card was, and then we'll dive into actually rebooking this card. So the real card was Razor Ramon versus Ted DiBiase, the Steiner Brothers versus the Heavenly Bodies for the WWF Tag Team titles, Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental Championship, IRS versus the 1-2-3 Kid, Bret Hart versus Doink the Clown and then Jerry Lawler, Ludwig Borger versus Marty Jannetty, Tatanka and the Smoking Guns versus the Head Shrinkers, that infamous Rest in Peace match with the Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez, and of course the main event, Yokozuna versus Lex Luger. So let's see what I can do with this card. Right, we're going to kick it off with a tag team match, and that's Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid to face Money Inc. So basically, just taking the two singles matches, Razor versus DiBiase and IRS versus 1-2-3 Kid, and putting them together to make one tag team match. Because although I do think the Razor DiBiase was an alright opener, just feel like making it a tag team match would have been better than both of the singles matches. And I've got room for other matches on the card now because of this. So yeah, feud exactly the same. The whole Razor 1-2-3 Kid thing goes round like it did. The whole thing, Kid beating DiBiase and stuff like that, all goes round like it is. The whole angle with Razor Ramon turning babyface, that all goes round exactly how it did in real life. It's just very simply here, Razor Ramon and 1-2-3 Kid tag team up. I always thought that would have been better. I mean, I guess because they knew DiBiase was leaving the company, they were building IRS up as a singles guy now because DiBiase was going and IRS was staying. So, but I always preferred Money Inc. together as a tag team, and it would have been just nice to have them tag on one last pay-per-view before DiBiase left the company and ultimately retired from in-ring competition not too long after this. I always did like Money Inc. I actually do, looking back at it, they're one of the most underrated tag teams of all time. Probably because they were on top of the tag team division when the tag team division was taking a downturn. But you look at Money Inc. in 92, 93, really awesome tag team, to be fair. I think if they came along now, they'd probably be one of the best tag teams in the business. And I think it'd be great for 1-2-3 Kid to have his first WWF pay-per-view, teaming up with Razor Ramon on a big show like SummerSlam. And we're going to have Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, go over, because obviously that would make sense. But DiBiase is leaving, Razor's getting a big push as a babyface. So yeah, Razor and the Kid to go over, and you can have Razor pin DiBiase as in real life. Then match number 2 for the WWF Tag Team titles, the Steiner Brothers versus the Heavenly Bodies. This one will stay the same because why not? This was one of the better matches of the night. And I don't really see any need to change that. This was a decent enough feud. The match was really, really good. This is obviously in Auburn Hills, Michigan, which isn't too far from Detroit, the Steiner Brothers' hometown. I mean, this show had that infamous moment where they were interviewing the Steiner Brothers' family, the Steiner Brothers' mum and the sister. Then the Steiner Brothers' mum, God, she just totally mugged Todd Pettengill off, didn't she? Todd Pettengill was interviewing, she could tell she was just not interested at all. And then the Steiner Brothers' sister accidentally broke kayfabe and called Rick Robbie, because obviously Rick's real name. So on live on pay-per-view, she said Rick Steiner's real name is Robbie. That was funny. Heavenly Bodies, that was an interesting one because at the time this was a result of a working agreement with WWF and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which was of course Jim Cornette's promotion in the 1990s. This resulted in Corny finally coming to WWF after so many years down in all the southern territories and all that shit. And he brought a tag team up with him to work part-time. That was the Heavenly Bodies, the Gigolo, Jimmy Dale Ray, and Dr. Tom Pritchard. Tom Pritchard's actually really underrated worker. Just in that era, average size and not a lot of personality. I mean, I remember, if you remember at WCW Super Brawl earlier that year, the original Heavenly Bodies worked that show, and that was Tom Pritchard and Stan Lane, the face of Rock and Roll Express. And now the new Heavenly Bodies were facing the Steiners. I mean, you didn't realise this is a really good match, so keep it on the card and keep it exactly the same. The Steiner brothers go over, but there's a post-match twist I'm going to do for this one. So, after the match, the Steiner brothers win, and then the Quebecers come out and beat down the Steiner brothers, sneak attack them from behind, maybe even beat them up for their own tag team belt. So I had to check this one because obviously this was 26 years ago and I was 6 years old at the time, so I don't remember every little detail of what happened in the WWF in 1993, so I had to check to make sure the Quebecers had actually debuted before SummerSlam, and my research showed that they debuted on a late July edition of Wrestling Challenge. So I went for that one, the Quebecers to run in and attack the Steiner Brothers after the match. To start off that rivalry, because I did later, probably about a month later, maybe a little bit longer, on Monday Night Raw, the Quebecers actually beat the Steiner Brothers for the tag team titles in that silly Providence of Quebec rules match. If you remember that one, that was quite funny. Then the Quebecers, they had a really good one run as well. So the Quebecers are going to lay out the Steiner Brothers in the hometown to get a lot of heat. Now the next match, this is going to be an interesting one and probably a surprise. People picked this one. It's for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. In a special 2 out of 3 falls match, Diesel is barred ringside. Shawn Michaels defends against Marty Jannetty. So that's right, not booting Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Perfect on the show. I actually went back and forth with this. I was going to do it originally, but then I changed my mind and I thought, do you know what? It's my rebooking. I'm going to book the match I want to book. And I really wanted to book Michaels versus Jannetty on this show. Because let's face it, the Michaels Mr. Perfect match was a big disappointment. Nowhere near as good as it could have been. And long-term followers of the channel might remember way back, God knows how long, 4 or 5 years ago maybe, when I booked WrestleMania 9. I booked Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Perfect on that card. So the Shawn Michaels Marty Jannetty mini feud in 1993 never truly got going, and that was mainly down to Jannetty's personal problems. If you recall, they had that match at Royal Rumble 1993. Apparently, by all accounns, that was supposed to lead to a big blow-off at WrestleMania 9, but Jannetty was fired the next day for allegedly being drunk. And then Jannetty came back in that awesome May edition of Raw. I think it was May 19th, 1993, I believe. It was the same night that Razor Ramon lost to the 1-2-3 kid. Jannetty surprisingly comes back to the company and then beats Shawn Michaels to the Intercontinental title live on Raw. And then you think, okay, King of the Ring's coming up, maybe they'll do Michaels Jannetty there. No, Shawn Michaels wins the title back in a house show. And I believe that's when Diesel made his official WWF debut. And then in July, Michaels and Jannetty had an even better match on Raw, and I think Michaels won that one as well. I can't remember if Diesel interfered or not. I can't remember now. But apart from Bret and Mr. Perfect, I think those 2 Michaels and Jannetty matches on Raw were pretty much the best matches that the WWF had in 1993. So now, after all that, we're going to get the big blow-off here in a 2 out of 3 falls match with a special stipulation that Diesel is banned from ringside because Diesel was Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, who's getting involved in matches and all that. So Jack Tunney was going to make this announcement that Shawn Michaels had to fight Jannetty in a fair match. If Diesel was at ringside, or if Diesel broke the rules and interfered, the match would be stopped immediately. Shawn would be stripped the title and award the title to Jannetty. And then a special 2 out of 3 fall stipulation. And looking at this card, this would by far be the best match of the night. Hell, could even be a match, well, it probably would be a match of the year contender, I would say. Give this 25 minutes maybe, just let it really go for a long time. Have Shawn Michaels win the first fall, then Jannetty can rebound and win the second fall. And then at the end they'll go through all the awesome shit. I mean, despite the problems he had with each other, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, fantastic in-ring chemistry. And God, if Jannetty could just stay sober and stay focused, Michaels and Jannetty could have feuded for a long time. Had some really amazing matches. I remember they even had an awesome one in 1996, back when Jannetty was doing the New Rockers thing and Shawn Michaels was the WWF champion. That's actually one of the most underrated Raw matches ever, if you haven't seen that one before. God. So at the end, Shawn Michaels gets a big clean victory over Jannetty to establish him as a good Intercontinental champion. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. And then match number 4, we're going to have Macho Man Randy Savage taking on the Narcissus Lex Luger. So that's right, spoiler alert, in Lundrick's Rebooking, Lex Luger is not the All-American babyface. And of course, as you can gather, he's not main event in SummerSlam this year. So he's staying as a Narcissus Lex Luger. I mean, don't want to go in a big debate about the pros and cons of the All-American Lex Luger and all at the Lex Express. But for me personally, I would have liked to see him be the Narcissus for a little bit longer. Just feel like that gimmick suited him a hell of a lot more. I mean, come on, at the time, you know that Lex Luger was an arrogant prick. So you know that whole gimmick of him looking at himself in the mirror and thinking he's perfect and special and all that wasn't too far from the truth. And I just feel if they went with a Narcissus a little bit longer, maybe another 6 months, maybe even another year, that I think he could have been a really, really top heel. And of course, this one, Randy Savage is on this card. I mean, you probably heard me say it in many other videos in the past, but just feel like so many wasted opportunities with Macho Man in 93, 94. I mean, come on, like, it's just, you feel most of the time as a commentator, and I feel like there was just so much good stuff on the table as Randy Savage is that WWF legend. Because Randy Savage, how old was he in 93? He was like 40, 41, and at the time that was seen as, oh, well, Randy's old, Randy's past it, Randy's past his best. But then you look at that and you think, well, AJ Styles now is 42, so is, by that token, do we consider AJ Styles washed up now? Absolutely not. So do we, Randy Savage could have contributed significantly to WWF during this period, especially because it was a down period and we were rebuilding, so Randy Savage could have been used to really put over new stars. So for this one, simple feud really. Randy Savage is on commentary, like obviously talking shit about Lex Luger, knocking people out with the forearm and all that. Then you could do a match on Raw, because I believe they did something like this in real life, where Lex Luger's facing Crush, and then Lex Luger knocks Crush out of the thing, and then post-match, it looks like he's going to beat him up again, but then Randy Savage jumps off the commentary desk to try and help Crush, runs off the Narcissus, and while Savage is tending to Crush, Lex Luger can sneak back into the ring, knock Randy Savage out with the forearm, and there you go, all systems go from there. Randy Savage is pissed, maybe on Superstars or on Raw or whatever the case may be. Randy Savage couldn't come out. During one of the Narcissus squash matches, come through the crowd, attack Lex Luger and get pulled away, and then talk about the commentary desk. Probably how he's on the commentary desk and all that, but I'm still the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and I want a piece of Lex Luger. SummerSlam, oh yeah! So Randy Savage can challenge Lex Luger to a match at SummerSlam. The Narcissus Lex Luger accepts, and there we go. And I think this match would be at least alright. Don't think it'll be a show stealer or anything like that, but I think it'll be at least decent. It wouldn't be something like Savage versus Michaels or Savage versus Brett or anything like that, but I think it'd be a pretty good match. I mean, like I say, Savage in 93, 94 still Obviously, he wasn't Macho Man of 87, 88, 89, not that kind of level, but he was still pretty damn good. And for this one, we're going to go with the Narcissist to go over clean with a knockout, with the running forearm knockout shot. The Narcissist gets a big clean victory over the WWF legend and Macho Man Randy Savage. Right, so next, Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler / Doink the Clown. So for me, keep this exactly the same as it was, because maybe not for match quality, but this whole Bret Jerry Lawler situation was, for me, easily the best thing about SummerSlam 1993. God, it was just so well booked and just pure gold. I mean, I did briefly contemplate having Bret face Yokozuna in the main event, but then I decided, do you know what? This was great how it was. So let's just keep it how it was. So in real life, just keep everything how it was. Bret wins the King of the Ring. Jerry Lawler jumps Bret at the end of the pay-per-view. And look, that's such an underrated moment now. It really is. When Jerry Lawler attacked Bret Hart at the end of King of the Ring 1993. And God, I hated Jerry Lawler as a kid for that so much. Hated him because he was such an awesome heel as well. And then all the stuff in the build-up with Jerry Lawler taking the piss out of Bret's parents and all that. Just pure comedy gold. Absolute comedy gold. I mean, some of the stuff that Lawler used to use on Bret's parents was absolute gold. And I just feel like Stu and Helen were such perfect foils for that. And just some of the stuff he used to say was absolute classic. So the build-up of this match exactly the same as it was in real life. I mean, Jerry Lawler, Bret Hart, maybe the matches weren't all that good, but I think as far as like the storyline and promos, pretty awesome, to be honest with you. I mean, God, Jerry Lawler was just so good as an obnoxious heel, and you just really want to see Bret get him in the ring and just kick the shit out of him. Because at the time, to us casual WWF fans, because I was a 6-year-old WWF fan at the time, I didn't know about Jerry Lawler's history as the top star babyface of Memphis wrestling and all that. I didn't know any of that. I just saw Jerry Lawler as this arrogant commentator who pretends to be the king and just an obnoxious prick and deserves to get the shit beat out of him. So I didn't know all about Jerry Lawler's history, and I just wanted to see Bret Hart beat the shit out of him. So what happened in real life? Bret Hart comes out first. Jerry Lawler comes out on crutches and ice pack on his knee, and then claims to be in a car accident, and now his legs mangled and he can't wrestle Bret Hart. So like obviously this was Lawler taking the piss, trying to get out of the match. So now we had Doink the Clown replace him, so we're going to do that here, because I thought that promo Jerry Lawler on crutches was pure heel gold. I mean, it was just awesome stuff. And the Bret Doink match, that wasn't a very long match. I think it was like probably less than 10 minutes, but it was a solid enough match. But it aided the storyline so perfectly. So as you remember, Doink has Bret in the sharpshooter, wins the match, and Jerry Lawler smacks Bret over the head of the crutch, beats him down, and then Jack Tunney comes out and then forces Lawler to get in the ring to wrestle Bret Hart, because that's what the fans paid for. So Jerry Lawler was going to do it, or I think the exact words was permanent suspension. So why didn't you just say fired? Isn't permanent suspension and firing the same thing? You know, just whatever. But there's actually a fairly funny backstory to this one. So at the time, because Bret was pissed at Jerry Lawler because it's the King of the Ring. He absolutely stiffed the shit out of him with a Saptor shot. Like, he actually hit him full force in the head of it. And then he got pissed off because he recklessly threw the trophy on his chest. And it actually still hurt Bret. And then there was a time, so Bret had that in his mind that when he got time, he was going to give Jerry Lawler a receipt for that. And then in this match, Jerry Lawler absolutely stiffed the shit out of Bret with a crutch again. So, like, it really, really hurt Bret with this stuff. Bret thought, right, that's it. I'm going to get Jerry Lawler back here. So, then they do the little match. And the Bret Lawler match was alright, but it was all about the storyline more than anything. I remember the time there, Bruce and Owen in the crowd as well, and they're played into this match as well. So, as the match went on, Bret beats down Jerry Lawler. And the funny thing, so Bret puts Jerry Lawler in the sharpshooter, but Bret says, because of the shit Jerry Lawler did when Bret did the sharpshooter to Jerry Lawler for real, like, he put as much pressure on as he could to deliberately hurt Jerry Lawler to get him back for stiffing him. And And then, so Bret wins the match, but then Bret refuses to release a sharpshooter. And a funny story here, because so as he was refusing to release a sharpshooter, all the officials, like all the road agents and that, came out to try and get Bret off the sharpshooter. But Bret tells a funny story, because obviously before, Jerry Lawler was a promoter in Memphis, and a lot of these guys had worked for that territory, and the Memphis territory was notorious for shitty payoffs and things like that. So Jerry Lawler had a lot of heat with a lot of wrestlers when he came to WWF. So the officials made it look like they were trying to get Bret off Jerry, but what they were really doing was having a little ha-ha with each other, adding more pressure on, leading into Bret, so Jerry Lawler would be even more pain. So eventually Bret lets go of the hold, but then a great twist at the end. The referee, because Bret Hart refused to release a submission hold after the match was over, the referee was now going to disqualify Bret and award the match to Jerry Lawler. And that, to be honest, that just got them even more heat, because you were like, what? So it looked like Bret had got his revenge on Jerry Lawler and all that, but no, I'm afraid not, because after all this, Jerry Lawler ends up being the winner of the match. And then I think Owen and Bruce got involved in the post-match, and then one of the most awesome heel moments I think I've ever seen, just a tiny little thing, but it was so awesome. So Jerry Lawler's getting driven out on a stretcher because he's in so much pain, but Jerry Lawler has enough sense about him to raise his hand in victory. He's lying on top of the stretcher and he's got his hand raised in victory. It's like, oh, that is just an awesome heel moment. What a prick. So all this Bret Jerry Lawler stuff, this is on the card exactly the same. So match number, we're on number 7 now, because I guess Bret Doink was number 5, Lawler and Bret was number 6. Then, so Ludwig Borger versus Bob Backlund. So, because in real life, Marty Jannetty faced Ludwig Borger, but for me, on my thing, he wrestles Shawn Michaels. So for this one, because I took Mr. Perfect out of the Intercontinental title match, I didn't really have a match with Mr. Perfect. I mean, but doesn't really matter. I mean, Mr. Perfect by summer of 1993 was dealing with injuries, and he'd be gone from the company not that long later on. So I needed an opponent for Ludwig Borger, because I thought, yeah, keep the Borger squash on the card, because I remember at the time Ludwig Borger came in, a Finnish wrestler called Tony Halm. He'd had some experience in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think he was a professional kickboxer. I think he was one of those guys that looked the part. I mean, you look at the guy, he looks impressive. He looks like a Vince McMahon wrestler. He looks menacing, he looks big, he looks intimidating, but he just wasn't very good in the ring, to be honest. I mean, you saw a lot of that around this time period, because I think Vince always had the big man vision, so you got a lot of guys that looked impressive but just weren't that very good. And I mean, Ludwig Borger was one of those guys, to be honest with you. And it looked for a while like he was getting a huge push as well. I mean, he was the first man to beat Tatanka. There was always a rumour in innuendo that he was eventually going to be the WWF champion, and he was going to face Lex Luger at WrestleMania 10. Of course, none of that happened, and how much is that as rumour and how much is that as fact, who knows? Well, it was 25 years ago, so who really knows now and all that. And then he broke his ankle in early 1994, and then it did end his WWF career, and he never came back, and he wasn't really seen in mainstream wrestling again. So he's one of those blink if you miss it kind of character. He was there for a little bit, got a little bit of a push, and then he was gone. He was around long enough to have a Hasbro figure though. I mean, he was in the Green Card Hasbro series, and that's actually a pretty damn cool figure. But anyway, enough of that. So his opponent, I was looking to do a roster in 1993, and I chose Bob Backlund for this role. Bob Backlund wasn't on this card. I mean, this is the time where Bob Backlund was playing babyface Backlund from 1979 in 1993, and of course it wasn't until the year later became Mr. Backlund and all that his run got off to a start. But just feel like having Backlund be the one to lose to Borger would make Borger look impressive by beating a former WWF champion. Now, granted, Bob Backlund wasn't a high priority in 1993, but I thought he'd be the guy for the role, to be honest, so I'm happy with that. Just let this be a 3-4 minute squash match with Ludwig Borger going over. Pretty simple stuff. And then we got match number 8. Tatanka and the Smoking Guns versus Bam Bam Bigelow and the Head Shrinker. So keep this match the same, because believe it or not, this was probably the best match of the night. I mean, on paper that sounds kind of weird, but it's true. This is probably one of those underrated matches in the history of SummerSlam. I mean, seriously, if you haven't seen this match, look it up. Tatanka and the Smoking Guns versus Bam Bam Bigelow and the Head Shrinkers. You think, yeah, that sounds pretty average, but no, it was actually pretty damn good, to be fair. This was stemmed from the rivalry between Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka, and I guess the Head Shrinkers and Smoking Guns must have been feuding, but I'm going to be honest, I can't really remember much about that feud. Maybe it was more of a house show feud, but as far as television goes, I can't really remember much about Smoking Guns and the Head Shrinkers feuding around this time. I do remember the Tanka Bam Bam rivalry though, and I did actually briefly consider just having Tatanka and Bam Bam in a singles match, but you know, I really like this match and I really want to keep it on the card, so keep it in its position, everything about the same. Tatanka and Smoking Guns go over. Now we're on at the main event for the WWF Championship, and that's Yokozuna versus The Undertaker. That's right. So no Undertaker Giant Gonzalez. Let's just ex-nay that feud. I mean, if I could go back in the time machine and erase that feud from history, I definitely would do that, because oh god, that feud was awful, absolutely awful. And I mean, they were obviously the one at WrestleMania 9. Good God, that was terrible. Then this show they had what was called a Rest in Peace match, which in the build-up they didn't really explain what a Rest in Peace match was. But it turns out it was just basically a no-holds-barred match, pin or submission, whatever. And the match was a little bit better than the WrestleMania 9 one, but not by much. And the Undertaker won cleanly this time. And get this off the show. Just pretend this never happened. And Giant Gonzalez is not on this card, kind of, but we'll get to that. So, the main event for SummerSlam, Yokozuna versus The Undertaker. I mean, as far as the match quality, yeah, the match probably wouldn't be that good, but I think as far as having an interesting headline and match, I think this is probably the one to have. I mean, take a Yokozuna, I don't know, for me, when they transitioned away from Lex Luger to The Undertaker in the late 93 or the 1994, just feel like Undertaker and Yokozuna felt much more natural than Yokozuna versus Lex Luger did. Feel like Taker was a much more interesting challenger for Yoko than Lex Luger was, definitely. So I guess really, it doesn't have to be an elaborate storyline, just Yokozuna wins a title from Hulk Hogan at King of the Ring, and basically after that, like in the early summer, Jack Tunney names The Undertaker the #1 contender for SummerSlam, because I guess obviously Undertaker's win-loss record and all that, and obviously, well, we can have like something like Yokozuna freaking out that he has to defend the title against The Undertaker, and just have some real basic promos towards each other. I mean, you could do this match and then give the rivalry a little rest and then renew it in time for the 1994 Royal Rumble, and then do all the stuff like Yokozuna being afraid of caskets and all that for that show. But for this one, we'll leave that aspect out. So you've got a badass heel in Yokozuna, probably the most dominant character in the company, The Undertaker, is a babyface, and that's your SummerSlam main event. Like, two big bulls colliding in the main event for SummerSlam. Like I said, the match probably wouldn't be that good, but I think it's probably an interesting choice to main event. I mean, I like it anyway. I'm quite happy with what I've come up with for the SummerSlam main event. Maybe other people's won't, and that's fine. That's your opinion. So yeah, build up, really just a simple build up of interfering in each other's matches and all that. Maybe Yokozuna try and take The Undertaker out. Maybe you can do a second where Yokozuna does a bonsai drop and The Undertaker sits up. Then Yokozuna like freaks out. So there's like, what can Yokozuna do to beat The Undertaker? So really sell the fact that The Undertaker's probably going to be the WWF champion by the end of this show. Obviously with that you have the whole American all-American themes not on this show, because the whole all-American theme that was used for the Lex Luger, so having the national anthem being sung and all that, and then the hero video at the end, you remember that one? I'll be your hero, whoa. I mean, that wouldn't work for The Undertaker. That would just look ridiculous, wouldn't it? So all that aspect of it's gone, and we get the match. Give this match about, I don't think it needs to go more than 15 minutes. I mean, Just let them do their thing. I think the match will be at least okay, but it's not really about having a good match, to be honest with you, for this one. Just more about telling a decent story and advance the storyline. So for the finish, I mean, this might be not the best finish, but it's the best one I could have put on with, because I don't think... Because I think by 1993, Undertaker didn't need to be the WWF champion then. And of course he was going away in early 1994 anyway. And I just think Yokozuna being the heel champion at the time was the right call. So we're getting down to the match here. Maybe the managers get involved, Undertaker knocks him down, but the referee is distracted. And then coming in from the crowd, Giant Gonzalez could come down, beat down the Undertaker, choke him out, and all that sort of. So Giant Gonzalez could attack the Undertaker, and then the storyline being that Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette paid him off to take out the Undertaker. Then Yokozuna can hit a bonsai drop after Giant Gonzalez has beat him down, and then for the win, Yokozuna could beat the Undertaker with the interference of Giant Gonzalez. Then Yokozuna could retain the WWF Championship. So, but then you could also do at the end of the show here that Giant Gonzalez is gone, but Yokozuna is celebrating in the ring, and the Undertaker sits up, knocks Yokozuna out of the ring, and then you could maybe have him tombstone Jim Cornette or something. I would say Mr. Fuji, but I think by this time Mr. Fuji was so shot, he wasn't really taking bumps anymore. Then you look at Mr. Fuji's managed Yokozuna. I don't really recall him taking many bumps at all, so you could maybe have the Undertaker chokeslam and tombstone Jim Cornette, and then goes off the air with Paul Bearer with the urn, the Undertaker doing his pose and all that. So there you go. That is SummerSlam 1993. So what do you guys think of this? And like I say, in the comment section below, comment maybe other SummerSlam shows you might want to see over the next few weeks. However, but bear in mind, if you look at my channel, you've seen I have previously done SummerSlam 1995, and I did do SummerSlam 2000 a few years ago, so those are already done. And until Wednesday, until the G1 Climax, until next time, peace.